Good afternoon, friends, from one small, unique and strange country, which is called Liechtenstein. This is River Rhine. On my side here is Liechtenstein. On that side of the river, that's already Switzerland. I'm sitting here stretching my legs after a lot of walking, and here is Alte Rheinbrücke, or in English, which would be probably Old Rhine Bridge, old bridge over the River Rhine. That's an interesting thing. And there is Liechtenstein's capital, city, town, I don't know how to call it, Vaduz. That's how they pronounce it, Vaduz. I was thinking maybe it's Vaduz or Vaduz. It's Vaduz. Funny sounding name. So, remember I was telling you in the last video that I will share some ideas and some information regarding how is it possible, and is it at all possible, to travel on 20 euro a day total budget to places where even cheapest hostels cost 46 euro per night. As you see, I am here. So obviously it somehow was possible, and maybe let's walk through this old bridge, and while I'll be walking there I'll try to explain what I mean and how it works. So, well, that's an interesting place. They need to use electricity lighting even in the daytime. That's some strange construction. I've never been into a place like this. You see these kind of windows? There is River Rhine. That's weird. Old and interesting. Okay, so how is it possible to travel on a 20 euro per day budget without cheating, without using any other extra money from somewhere else, and travel into such places like Liechtenstein and Switzerland, or could be Norway or Iceland, all these terribly expensive places where every piece of dust costs 100 euros. How is it possible? You see, the whole idea is, the trick is that 20 euros per day, in my case, this is average. It's not maximum, and it's not minimum budget. It's average. And that's the whole point. And it's actually very simple and very possible, without any issues at all, to travel in such expensive places and to afford crazy expensive stuff, as long as you can keep your average within your limit. And this is something I was thinking I want to share with you, because I have noticed that many people see it as something prohibitively impossible. You see, when you start to plan budget, many things become available for you, instead of just spending everything and then trying to survive without eating until next wage. So when you plan things and you budget things, suddenly things become organized and possible. But the bad thing, actually, you know what? I'm first time in my life in Switzerland now. I stepped on Switzerland's soil. This side of the river is Switzerland. I have never been in Switzerland. But okay, I know. Next 3 days will be for Switzerland, so I don't need to explore much on that side. I'll be going back to Vaduz in Liechtenstein. Today and tomorrow morning is for Liechtenstein. But yeah, interesting. You witnessed a moment which was first time in my life, stepping my feet on Switzerland's soil. Okay, let's get back to our topic. When you start budgeting and planning, things become organized and possible, but there is also one drawback. I have noticed, I have had it myself, and I have noticed many others, people having it, that you start to think about many things as something out of reach. Oh, they are too expensive. Oh, that's not for me, that's for other people. I can't afford it. No, it's no way I can pay such money for something. Like I could look on that side of the river, Liechtenstein, cheapest hostel in Vaduz today. Maybe it will be different after 10 years if you watch this video, but today the cheapest hostel, absolute cheapest possibility, is 46 euros per night. Come on. Normally I should discount it immediately and say no, that's not for me, that's for other people. I can't pay 46 euros for one night in a big dormitory bedroom with many beds. Cheapest hostel. Come on. That's not real. Because my budget is 20 euro a day, including everything. And accommodation usually is about 10 euro averaging per day. But let's now run some quick simple numbers. I won't try to be very exact and specific, you understand. I just want to show you idea. I have learned that nothing is impossible and nothing is too expensive for me, even though I'm running on such low budget. Everything is possible, I can afford everything. Only question is, what does it cost for me? And by that I mean, if I want to afford, let's say, 3 nights, 1 in Liechtenstein, 2 in Switzerland, which I will be doing now, what does it cost for me to be able to afford it? And in other words, where I should stay and how many other nights I should stay in some cheaper place to be able to afford this, so that my average at the end comes out to be 10 euros per night for accommodation, 5 for transport and 5 for food. A little bit less miscellaneous expenses also sometimes happen, but in general that's the idea. So, before coming to here, I was spending a good amount of time in North Macedonia and in Albania, where I could easily find places to stay for 5, at maximum 6 euros per night. And my average is 10, so it means that I was saving half of it. Transportation was very cheap there, and food was almost free, so I saved good money there as well. And the Ryanair ticket to those places and back cost me also, I don't remember, something like 10 euros or something. It was cheap, so I saved a lot of money there. And after this trip, my next one will be probably for Romania, Moldova and Ukraine, which are again cheap places. You can even find some hostels in Ukraine for 2 euros per night, some places. Sometimes I have seen even cheaper. You can go to Armenia, Georgia, Russia, and sometimes, like in Georgia, you can find some hostels for 2 euros per night. Some in Russia, some places you can find even some places extremely cheap for 1 euro per night sometimes, and everything else is cheap there as well. So basically, how does it work? It's just a question. If I want to spend 1 week in, let's say, Switzerland or Liechtenstein, and let's take for simplicity example Switzerland, and let's say the hostel, you can get hostel for 35 euros per night in Switzerland, which would be about the cheapest you can get in Switzerland. This is the old Schloss, the castle. I just wanted to show you. Okay, so you want to stay for 7 nights, maybe for simpler maths, let's say 5 days. You want to stay 5 days in Switzerland, expensive place. 35 euros per night hostel. 10 euro is your normal budget for accommodation. It means that each night costs you 25 euros too much. You're overspending 25 euros per night. 5 nights, what does it mean? 25 by 4 would be 100, and 125 more, so 125 euros you're spending extra for these 5 days. Now you choose another place, let's say Ukraine, where you can find a hostel for 2 euros per night instead of 10. It means that each night saves you 8 euros. How many nights you need to stay in Ukraine to be able to afford 5 nights in Switzerland? So you need to save 125 euros while staying in Ukraine. So I don't have a calculator in my head. What will it be? You can take out calculator, or if you have a better math brain than me, you can divide 125 euros by 8 euros, which is what you save each night by staying in Ukraine. It won't be much. Like 10 days will be 80 euros, and what more do you need? Something like 15 days or something in that neighborhood. You need to stay in Ukraine. 15 days in Ukraine. It's very realistic. It's not difficult at all. Ukraine is a big, beautiful country with interesting, nice people. You can easily spend 15 days there without any problem. You won't be bored, definitely. You can spend 3 months there easily. So what's the problem with 15 days? And if you stay there for 15 days, then you can stay 5 days in Switzerland after that, and your average will be exactly 10 euros per night. So that's how you can afford to stay in Switzerland, to travel in expensive countries. Of course, if I wanted to stay in Switzerland or Liechtenstein for, I don't know, 2 months, wow, it would be difficult. But if I can plan, by the way, these expensive countries, usually they are quite small as well. And even if you talk about expensive cities like New York or some other places, that city is quite small. It's not so big as a country. So usually it's okay to stay there for only 3 days, maybe 5 days, and that's enough. You can go ahead. So you don't need to stay 2 months there. It's okay to plan for 4 or 5 days of intense visiting, how do you call it? Use your time intensely. Visit and see as much as you can during those 4 or 5 days without too much sleep and without any other jobs to be done, to see the maximum. And then go again in cheaper countries, and your average will be okay. Even the same goes for transportation, for example. That's another example. How can I put all my travel expenses, transportation expenses, into €5 per day. If a train ticket costs, let's say here, I was coming from Germany to Austria, 1 hour train ride cost me €22. Crazy money. Yes. How can I put it into my €5 a day travel budget? The same way. I just stretch it out as far as I need to get it averaging on my €5. If I'm staying in cheaper places, I can move around less and save on transportation. If I have saved in cheaper places, I can fork out bigger money and pay for expensive Switzerland trains, which I will be doing tomorrow. It's the same way. Maybe I can give you one more example, just for illustration. Let's say if I wanted to go to India, I will want to do it one day. I've never been there yet. If I wanted to go to India now, and if I wanted to buy a ticket in, 4 weeks time to go to India, I haven't checked lately, but I think it probably, if I would check it, it might be like €600 return air ticket to India from Europe. How can I put €600 into €5 a day? Well, if you want to make a quick visit for, let's say, 6 days, to stay 6 days in India, then your air ticket will cost €100 per day. And that's not counting all the buses and the trains, or God forbid taxis, or whatever other things you might need in India. Impossible, yeah? Sounds like impossible. No, it's not impossible. You just need to stay longer time in India. What if you spend 2 months in India? Is 2 months too much, too long time for India? No. You can spend 2 years there and would still haven't seen everything. Would be more things to explore and to visit. So 2 months is not long time for India. And if you spend there 2 months, the same €600 return air ticket suddenly cost you what? 60 days? So it means €10 per day. It's a bit more realistic number already by staying two months there. And if you stay 4 months in India, then suddenly you get €5 a day. €5 is still not enough, because you will need some money for traveling for local transportation. You can't spend everything on air ticket, but you can see how you can get the number down. And even if you don't want to spend, let's say, 4 months in India, you can fly to Delhi, and you can visit many Asian countries and fly back from Thailand or Singapore or other places where you can get good air ticket prices, and fly home back from there. And as long as you do all the trip 4 months long, it will cost you those €5 a day. Plus, on top of it, Indian transport will be cheap. Indian food will be cheap. You can easily survive in India for less than €5 a day on food. Definitely. Your hostels, you won't spend €10 for a hostel in India. You can easily find places for €2-3 per night. So it means you will save more. You don't even have to spend 4 months there and still get within your budget. It's very possible. So in that way, I have learned to think in that way, that I can afford anything. It's just a question how long time and in how cheap country I need to spend before that. Let's say I want to do something crazy expensive, I don't know, some hot air balloon ride in some expensive place, which would cost me, I don't know, a couple hundreds more probably. maybe 1,000. I don't know what these things cost. I don't have thinking that I can't afford it. I can, any moment. How? I just need to decide how long time beforehand I have to spend in how cheap country. If the country is cheap enough and the time is long enough, I will save enough money to do this crazy hot air balloon ride, if it's so important for me. And then it's just a question to weigh, is it worth it or it's not? Is this experience that much worth for me that I would be happy to limit myself in terms of how long time I have to stay put in some cheap place to save that money? Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. I can weigh it up and I can decide. But the good thing is that it's possible. It's not something out of reach, it's possible. It's just a matter of getting your numbers together and seeing how can you afford it, not if you can afford it. And one more note about Liechtenstein and Switzerland. Obviously, food is not cheap either in these places. Some things in some Aldi or Lidl can be cheap, but in general everything that was touched by a human being is very expensive because human beings get very good wages here. So in general food won't be cheap in these places. What I did for this trip, I took food with me from Ireland. Ireland is not either very cheap place, but I knew places where I can get cheap food. So in this case I took 6 bags or more, I don't remember, of half-kilo mandarins, 49 cents each in Tesco. I got some cans of mackerels, 50 cents if I remember correctly each. And I got some packages of nuts and raisins mixture, also very cheap. And these things keep pretty much indefinitely. You can, well, mandarins won't be indefinitely, but for a long time. Many days without refrigeration is no problem at all. The only problem is to carry these things with me. But except mandarins, these things are quite nutritional dense, like nuts and raisins and that kind of stuff. So it don't weigh that much and it has a lot of calories in it. And if you have good amount of fresh fruit and good amount of protein, like nuts and fish, you can go for a long time without doing any harm to your body. Your body will actually get all that you need a lot better than from the food which people usually eat. So that's not a big problem either. I just have to carry this stuff, and I'll see how long it goes until I run out of food, and then I will start to buy something. I can actually imagine that I'll get through. I have already gone through Germany, Austria, definitely will go through Liechtenstein, and maybe I'll get through Switzerland as well with my food reserves. We'll see. And in Italy, in Milano, it will be cheaper already. If not, I can buy something in Switzerland, especially if I find some Aldi or Lidl there. Won't be a big issue either. So that's another small trick which you can do. Like if you do these concentrated short trips to expensive places, you can save on your food as well. And if you wanted, you could save on transportation by hitchhiking. I'm not desperate enough, and I don't enjoy hitchhiking that much to do it just for fun, but it would be possible, completely possible, to save all the transportation money on hitchhiking. Just get your €10 air ticket to this expensive place and continue with hitchhiking, eat your own food which you take with you, and the only thing you need is to stay somewhere. Even there you can use tent if you need, or you can do as I do. Just plan things so that you spend more time in cheaper places and less time in more expensive places, and on your averages you'll get what you need, like what I get, which in my case is 20 euros per day total. So that was probably a bit long ramble, in a beautiful place though. But I wanted to share these things with you because I think it might be useful for many people. Because I have seen so often when people say, "Oh, you are so lucky you can afford to travel. You must be very rich." And these people who are saying it usually make more money than me. And when I travel, I don't feel like I'm restricting myself a lot. And if I do feel that I'm restricting myself in some more expensive country, I just go to a cheaper country. And in that kind of cheap place, I can even afford to eat out, and maybe if I don't usually do expensive restaurants, but I could even. Like in Albania, North Macedonia, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, these kind of places, you can easily eat out twice a day and would still get within your budget. It's amazingly cheap. So you don't feel like you're terribly restricting yourself with these things. It's actually very liberating, and I wanted to share it with you because it's nice. It's good to know that you can afford anything. You just do your maths to see how can you afford it. And it's not rocket science. Okay, I'll go explore more of Vaduz. That side is the center. I'll see, maybe I go to that Schloss as well, that castle which I showed you before. And I'll let you go as well. I have been talking for a long time. I hope it was inspiring and useful enough for many enough of you. Have a good day, have a good travels, and know that everything is possible. It's just a matter of finding out how.